for a little interview. Please cooperate. And we'll let you see yourselves on Channel 3 in Hull someday.
If you don't, you walk home. They still do the Lighthouse every once in a while. Yeah, they do. Yeah, Woods Hole Marathon. Pretty good, yeah. Pretty good. We were just telling Norm that the...
Okay, my name is Norm Rogers. I'm retired Chief Warrant Officer of the United States Coast Guard, and I had the honor of being the last commanding officer of the Boston Lightship. Although I've never had duty on light stations themselves at a lighthouse, I have a great interest in it, and I've been working with George Morgan on the Flying Santa program Lighthouse Cruise, and it's kind of fun to be doing something a little bit different, coming down to the Cape and stopping at lighthouses such as Nobsker, and then we'll go down to Nauset and Chatham, and then a lighthouse that has a great interest to me, and that's Highland Light. Number one, my mother's family, a number of them were keepers there back, I won't say how many years ago, and also the fact that they just moved that lighthouse 450 feet because of the erosion at the cliffs at Highland there in North Truro. So I'm looking forward to that, and we have a good group of people here today, and George Morgan, the Flying Santa, who took over from Edward Rowe Snow when he passed away a number of years ago, organizes this, and kind of a great thing to do. We're here at Nobsker Light. We're going to take a tour of the lighthouse, and I know we'll enjoy this, and hope you people viewing this enjoy the lighthouses of Cape Cod.
Good morning. My name is George Morgan. I'm the current Flying Santa. I'm with the Hull Life Saving Museum, and the museum today is sponsoring this tour of the lights down the Cape. And this is Mr. Doug Bingham.
Good morning. I'm Doug Bingham. I'm with the New England Lighthouse Foundation and also on the Flying Santa staff. And this is a real treat to be here at Nobsker with George and the crew. And it's just, basically it's a beautiful day. What else can we tell you? It's cloudy, but it's not raining. It's great.
Today we're going to visit 4 lighthouses down the Cape. We're here at Nobsker now. We've got 30 people, and the Auxiliary Coast Guard man, Barry O'Neill, is going to give them all a personalized tour, which is great. From here we're going over to the Chatham Lighthouse, and after a short lunch break we're going to visit Nauset and wind up over in the Highland Light.
And if I might give you a little bit of a rundown over here, could you walk over here with the camera? There's a plaque on the side of the lighthouse here which details the history of the lighthouse station. And if we can get the camera operator to pan around a little bit while I'm talking, you'll notice that there are 3 illustrations here of what this station used to look like. The first is a Cape Cod style house with a lantern room on top. The second was a brown keeper's house with a slate roof. The slate roofs were in existence till about 1910 when the United States Lighthouse Service started phasing them out. And the tower at one time was painted brown, but because of the brown color it absorbed a lot of heat and the inside of the tower would sweat, and the tower would as a result of that would get a lot of rust. Offshore you can see one of the ferries, actually 2 of the ferries. One is a workboat over here on the right. This carries trucks to and from the islands to supply the stores and the various merchants over there, and the other is a passenger ferry which also carries automobiles. This lighthouse worked as an aid to navigation for boats like this to enable safe passage to and from Woods Hole, because just yards away from this shoreline there are a couple of reefs, and about where the workboat is the Les Hamadou Shoals. It's a French name. This is probably one of the most treacherous reefs here in the Vineyard area, in the southern Cape Cod area. And at one time there was a lightship which worked in conjunction with the Nobsker Lighthouse. The lightship would actually be placed in front of the obstruction underwater, and the lighthouse would be placed behind the obstruction to keep the ships away from the ledges and the reefs which are underwater here. This is probably one of the most treacherous stretches of water in the United States. in between the islands over here, you can see the Elizabeth Islands, which stretch down toward Cuttyhunk, which is some 12 miles south of here. There was also a lighthouse station, which the lighthouse tower is still there, but unfortunately, because of the visibility, we can't see it. That's Tarpaulin Cove, off in the distance, on the west side of, the east side of Noshon Island, and the Chamonix ferry right now is heading down in that direction. Tarpaulin Cove aided the mariners who found their way down toward Cuttyhunk and eventually into the mid-Atlantic shipping channel toward New York City. Prior to the time the Cape Cod Canal opened, most of your shipping from New York City came through here and depended on the Nobsco Light to find their way into the Nantucket and Vineyard Sound areas. And although we do have GPS, which is Global Positioning Systems, and LORAN navigation systems and satellite navigation, we still depend on the lighthouses for navigation if those electronic systems should ever fail. So lighthouses are not necessarily a throwback to an old period of time. They are very much a necessity for today's safe navigation, which is the reason we're trying to preserve them.
There you go. All right, now. Come on, George. Yeah, see, these are one of the original houses out on the point. And there was one family, the Lawrences, owned all this land. And then they sold it to the government for like $600. This was also a hospital area in the early days for TB and whatnot, because they figured it far enough away from Boston, throw them out in Oscar Point. Who else you got down there?
That's it.
You kidding?
That's it.
The whole 40 people up here?
Yeah, some of them couldn't make it.
Okay. Yeah, I know.
Yeah.
But this is it. This is. Have you been up here before?
About 6 years ago, yeah.
Yeah.
They made me climb up here in my Santa suit one year.
Oh, we'll be looking forward to seeing you coming again.
Well, they're looking forward to practicing this time for perfect tour next time.
We don't want any practices. We don't want any practice landings. We want all professional type of landings. You know,
Well,
this
it's
is the-
professional, but it's the...
Hi folks, my name is Barry O'Neill. I'm in the Coast Guard Auxiliary, and I am the lighthouse keeper for Nobsco Light down here in Woods Hole. This is a lantern room. This is our light right up here. This light is 1,000 watts of light. It gives out 28,000 candle power, and we can be seen out to sea from 12 to 17 miles, depending on the atmospheric conditions. This particular lens is called a Fresnel lens, and it was installed here in 1888. And this is the original lens. This is the same one that was put here. The actual lighthouse, the structure where we're standing, was built in 1878 on the same area where the original lighthouse was built in 1828. So there's been a lighthouse here since the early 19th century, at which time where 10,000 ships went through here. And the government decided that this would be a great spot for a lighthouse because there's a lot of shoals, and this is where the vessels went north or south. They'd make a turn right here. This lighthouse has been manned by government people right up until 1976, I think, when the last, no, it wasn't then, it was just at 1986 when the Coast Guard relinquished it, became automated, and it became the residence for the group captain, captain of Group Woods Hole. So now the Coast Guard Auxiliary takes it over, doing maintenance and tours, but the Coast Guard still maintains the heavy-duty maintenance on the light. That's basically it. If you want to pan the camera over, I can show you my wife who's standing over there. She's the Wickie's wife. I am known as the Wickie. That's Mary Alice. And she does... I
do windows.
She does the windows. Actually, it's no joke because this glass is very, very fragile. It is old, and I like to have the softer touch of cleaning it. It's a special solution, and we just got to be very careful with it because once this lens goes, there's not going to be any replacements for it. I call her the Mrs. Wickie because in the old days, the lighthouse keeper and his wife would have to light up the whale oil lamps and keep the wicks trimmed, and that would be a daily occurrence. Sometimes they'd have to trim it 2 or 3 times a night just to keep the flame going proper. So that's where the lighthouse keepers all got the term Wickie. So that was Mrs. Wickie that just spoke. That's basically...
I think houses on the mountain down
doors got them up.
What kind of a bar it is? Beer and wine?
I know it.
Got a light.
Good morning. I'm Bob Cosgrove with the U.S. Coast Guard Auxiliary Chatham Flotilla. We're here taking a tour of people up to see the lighthouse, climb right up to the top. The building's about 40 feet high. It's 82 feet above sea level. This light, which is about 2 million candle power, can be seen 24 miles out at sea. And on charts of the area, the height of the lighthouse is given because mariners can tell by triangulation how far away they are if they know the height of the tower. This particular building here goes back to about 1923 and has been in existence, however, since 1808. A series of lighthouses which were destroyed by storm or had to be replaced, upgraded, and so on. Originally, they used oil, whale oil. But today, of course, it's electricity. And the station here in Chatham is no longer a resident station. It's a substation of Provincetown, so that mariners here have to communicate either with Provincetown or with Woods Hole, both of which are quite some distance away. Out in front of us here, in front of the light, we have this huge break where the ocean broke through in 1990, creating what we call the rough bars. It says up on this signal here on the tower. A very dangerous passage. So now if you want to go from here by water to Nantucket Sound, for example, you have to go all the way down south here to the tip of Monomoy Island and all the way back again. You can't go through by Morris Island anymore. And that's probably not going to change. The lighthouse is a round white building, as you can see, with a steel shell lined with brick. And we're taking people today all the way up to the top. They get a fantastic view of the town and the ocean. That's about it, I guess.
You hold on to it.
My name is Brian McHugh. I'm in the Coast Guard Auxiliary. I've been with the Auxiliary for 6 wonderful years. I'm also a volunteer at Life Saving Museum. I take care of the Flington lens in the museum. And it's been great being part of the Auxiliary and being part of such a wonderful experience, and to be part of the museum has been great. And I really enjoy it, and I wish that more people would come out and see it.
Brian, tell me, how do you like this tour today?
Oh, it's been great. That's just a great idea. Something nice to do on a nice fall day.
Tell them about, did you enjoy your lighthouse tour of the Massachusetts this year, Brian?
Oh, yes, I have. It's been great. It was a great experience.
Brian,
I think-
show these people your Flying Santa sweatshirt that you've got here. He wears that very proudly. He's one of Flying Santa's biggest helpers. Brian, thank you very much.
Spinning light. The light spins around and doesn't stop for anybody.
That lane up here, this is the lane. Oh, it's out in the water.
You think a camera would take a picture? Watch your head coming up. With the glass? This is awesome.
Yeah.
View. It's gotta be 42 feet up. Wow. Probably shouldn't look straight into that light, huh? Yeah, look at the light now.
Yeah, me too.
Hello, how are you? Good, good to see you. How you doing? George Morgan, the Flying Channel. Pleased to meet you. How are you?
And if Mary Dalvenspeck is successful in her negotiations with the seashore, they can get together on things like tenure and money and stuff like that. We anticipate that this will be moved over there to be back in the same geometry as it's had before. Yeah. And she's willing to pay for the price of moving, but it comes down to how long she'll be allowed to stay in the house and how much cash the seashore can come up with. Seashore is pretty cash poor. That's one of the trees that long since went over the edge, and there was about 10 feet on the other side of it. Then, in January, we started losing ground here much more quickly than we did at the lighthouse because apparently there's some clay strata in the lighthouse, but you can get a pretty good idea. Raised above the ground, so it would be a reasonably simple job to move that.
Ready? These are the Three Sisters of Nauset. These towers date back to approximately 1842. The camera is focusing right now on the South Tower, which has lost its top, of course. The United States Lighthouse Service took the top off sometime prior to 1923. And the same thing happened to the North Tower off there in the distance. The tower was removed at the same time. The years really are unknown, and the locations or the exact deposition of those tops is unknown. The middle tower was called the Beacon up until 1923, when the current tower at Nauset that we just saw a few minutes ago took its place. This tower was secured to the keeper's house by means of a wooden entranceway which connected it to the house, and also was supported by guy wires because this tower would shake in the wind, being of such a light construction, being made of wood. The interior walls are the same right now as they were when they were removed. They're horsehair plaster. There are wooden decks and just very simple wooden stairways which lead to the tops of the towers. The ventilator ball is made entirely of copper, as is the top of the lantern room. There's almost no brass work on these lighthouses. They're simple wood frames, a 2x4 construction with wooden white cedar shingles, Italianate trim made of wood. These are the only set of towers that, actually 3 in number, that existed anywhere in the world as we know today, and were never duplicated anywhere else. For that matter, Massachusetts had more twin light towers than anywhere else in the world until the introduction of the Fresnel lens in 1852. This was lighted by a Fresnel lens, which is now in the museum at the Visitor Center at the National Seashore on Route 6 in Northeastham. And that lens was later transferred to the cast iron tower over there at Nauset Bluff, where it stands now. The tower at Nauset was automated in 1953, and the Fresnel lens was taken out of there and was in private hands until it was secured by the National Park Service in 1960. The tops of these towers are made partly of cast iron and partly wood, mahogany and oak and white pine being the major components of the structures. When the towers were removed in 1920, 1923, in that time frame, they were owned by private individuals. The north and the south tower were joined together at two ends of a building, which was used as a dance hall, a function hall, and a private residence. The middle beacon that we see right now was attached to a house and was part of a summer cottage for a good many years until it was taken back by the Department of the Interior National Park Service in 1985. These are restored by an architectural firm from Denver, Colorado, and they've done a wonderful job here. The towers are in their historically correct locations, being approximately 5 degrees off north, and are historically correct in their distances and their placement. The windows in these towers are 6/6 double hung windows. The doors are 4-panel. The walkways coming into the towers are historically correct, having just simple square fashioned balusters and railings with square caps on the ends of the newel posts. And they're supported by not quite so historically correct concrete foundations, where the concrete does indeed give them more structural integrity. You're a captive audience.
Continental Cablevision. What can I tell you?
Tell them who you are. What's going on here?
Am I talking to all these people, or?
No, you're on. This is on this camera.
Well, yeah, I know. Well, okay. My name is Gordon Russell. I'm the Vice President of the Truro Historical Society. I'm the chairman of the committee that originally started the effort to get this lighthouse moved, Cape Cod Highland Lighthouse. It has been moved now. You want me to tell you the whole story? It has been moved 453 feet, almost due west of where it was, from the edge of the cliff. It was 100 feet from the edge of the cliff when we started to move it. Now it is 553 feet from the edge of the cliff. It was 510 feet from the cliff when it was built in 1797. Now that has lasted almost 200 years in that location, so we should be good for another 200, 220 years where we are now.
Definitely gonna come down this year over the air perspective.
Oh yeah.
With the old ones.
Yeah.
Yes, please.
Yes, please. Yeah. Anybody here with the tour?
Gather. But he did that for 60 years, every day. Reported to the Chamber of Commerce. There was a series of buildings here that have been moved away. There must have been at least 20 structures that were here at one time, mostly because the lighthouse was here. The golf course was built because the lighthouse was here. Our building, as I said, was a summer hotel. These were summer cottages here, all owned by the one family, by the Small family, descendants of Morton Small.
They never saved any of it for this generation either. We didn't get a nickel out of it.
probably